The 90s had a dirty secret. A whole subset of thrillers asked the question, how far could you push an R rating before theaters refused to show it? Some became cultural phenomena, while others vanished into late-night cable rotation. But they all shared something. They turned theaters into places where audiences didn't know whether to look away or lean forward. Wild Things came out in March 1998 and immediately became the most paused VHS rental of the year. What starts as a simple false accusation story in Florida's wetlands becomes a plot so twisted that Roger Ebert said you needed a flowchart to follow it. Neve Campbell and Denise Richards play high school students accusing Matt Dillon's guidance counselor of assault. But nothing, absolutely nothing, is what it seems. Campbell and Richards choreographed the famous pool scene themselves over 3 days to feel comfortable with the material. Bill Murray shows up as the sleazy lawyer, improvising most of his dialogue, including the neck brace that appears and disappears without explanation. Directed by John McNaughton, the movie has 3 different endings that play during the credits, each one revealing another layer of deception. Most people never saw them because they stopped watching after the credits rolled, meaning they missed the actual solution to the mystery, if anyone was still paying attention by then. Poison Ivy introduced Drew Barrymore as the teenage temptress who infiltrates a wealthy family, seducing both father and daughter in different ways. Released in May 1992, when Barrymore was just 17, it was her attempt to shed her child star image, and she succeeded by being genuinely unsettling rather than just provocative. The movie was shot in a Los Angeles mansion that had been abandoned for years. The tattoo Ivy gets during the film was real. Barrymore got it during production and incorporated it into her character. Tom Skerritt, playing the father, was so uncomfortable with the age difference that director Kat Shea had to shoot their scenes with body doubles and clever editing to create the illusion of intimacy. Sarah Gilbert, playing the daughter Sylvie, was only 16 during filming and had a tutor on set between takes of watching her movie father succumb to her supposed best friend. The swing scene over the cliff used a location in the Hollywood Hills with a 50-foot drop, no green screen, just Barrymore on an actual rope swing that the insurance company tried to forbid. She did it anyway, and that genuine danger translates on screen. Disclosure turned the tables on workplace harassment when Demi Moore's executive sexually assaults Michael Douglas's subordinate, then claims he attacked her. Released in December 1994, based on Michael Crichton's novel, it walked into a cultural minefield about power, sex, and who gets believed. The virtual reality scenes look dated now, but in 1994 they were cutting edge, costing $1 million per minute of footage. Moore trained with dominatrix consultants to perfect her power dynamics in the office seduction scenes, confusing Douglas. He later admitted he took the role specifically because it flipped his fatal attraction and basic instinct typecasting. Director Barry Levinson shot the arbitration scenes like a courtroom thriller, using real sexual harassment lawyers as consultants, who said the film's scenario, while rare, had happened multiple times in Silicon Valley. The film's most controversial aspect wasn't the reversed gender dynamics, but the suggestion that false accusations could destroy careers, a talking point that made everyone uncomfortable. Bitter Moon is an excuse to explore sexual obsession through Peter Coyote and Emmanuelle Seigner's toxic relationship, observed by a perfectly repressed Hugh Grant and Kristen Scott Thomas on a cruise ship. Released in limited theaters in 1992, it's 2.5 hours of psychological torture disguised as eroticism. Roman Polanski filmed the entire movie on a cruise ship over 3 months. Seigner, who was his wife, performed her character's psychological manipulations so convincingly that Grant reportedly avoided her off camera. The film's dance sequence, where she performs for the entire ship, was choreographed by Seigner herself, based on performances she'd seen in Parisian underground clubs. Hugh Grant called it the most uncomfortable film he'd ever made, and considering his later arrest with a prostitute, that's saying something. The movie is exhausting by design. Audiences feel trapped on the ship with these people, and it succeeded too well. Bound was the Wachowski brothers' first film, before The Matrix made them household names. Released in October 1996, It's a neo-noir about ex-con Corky, played by Gina Gershon, who gets a job renovating apartments and falls for her neighbor Violet, Jennifer Tilly's mob moll, who's desperate to escape her money-laundering boyfriend, Caesar. When the women discover Caesar's about to handle $2 million in cash, they hatch a plan to steal it and run. The film was shot in sequence over just 38 days, with a $6 million budget, almost entirely in one apartment building set the Wachowskis had built to their exact specifications. Joe Pantoliano played Caesar as both genuinely dangerous and slightly pathetic, improvising much of his paranoid dialogue as the walls close in. The Wachowskis storyboarded every shot like a comic book, their signature style already emerging before anyone knew who they were. The film became a cult classic for treating its lesbian relationship as a noir romance rather than exploitation, and not a movie about lesbians designed just for male audiences. Color of Night gave us Bruce Willis as a psychologist who loses the ability to see red after a patient takes their life, then gets tangled in a murder mystery involving his therapy group. Released in August 1994, it won the Razzie for Worst Picture, but also became one of the most rented films of 1995, entirely because of one scene. The swimming pool scene, showing Willis fully nude, was revolutionary for a mainstream Hollywood release starring an A-list actor. Director Richard Rush shot it with 6 cameras to minimize takes. Willis has never discussed it publicly beyond saying he trusted Rush completely. Jane March's character's true identity was spoiled by critics immediately, destroying the film's mystery structure. The color blindness plot device required shooting every scene twice, once normal, once with red filtered out, then compositing them in post-production, a technique that ate up the film's budget. Critics savaged it, audiences rented it for obvious reasons, and Willis pretended it never happened. Sometimes, that's exactly the right response. The Last Seduction should have made Linda Fiorentino a star. Her performance as Bridget Gregory, who steals $700,000 from her husband and destroys everyone in her path, is one of the most ruthless characters ever put on film. Released in October 1994, it premiered on HBO before theaters, which disqualified it from Oscar consideration despite being one of the year's best films. Fiorentino stayed in character throughout filming, genuinely unnerving Peter Berg, who played her small-town victim. Director John Dahl shot the movie for $2.5 million in 38 days, using locations in small-town New York. The film's most shocking moment, where Bridget tries to convince her lover to commit assault to prove his manhood, was nearly cut until test audiences said it was essential to understanding her evil. Bill Pullman, playing the husband, filmed all his scenes in 5 days due to scheduling conflicts, rarely appearing on screen with Fiorentino despite playing her spouse. The movie launched a brief neo-noir revival and received critical acclaim, but Fiorentino never got the roles this performance should have earned her. Body of Evidence was supposed to be Madonna's Basic Instinct. Released in January 1993, she plays a woman accused of killing her wealthy lover with sex, defended by Willem Dafoe's lawyer, who immediately starts sleeping with her. It's terrible in ways that become almost hypnotic. The candle wax scene became infamous not for being erotic, but for Dafoe's visible discomfort. Madonna allegedly poured hot wax on him without warning because she wanted authentic reactions. The filming was so chaotic that director Uli Edel tried to have his name removed. Madonna insisted on doing her own nude scenes without body doubles, but then demanded reshoots when she didn't like how she looked. The courtroom scenes were shot in a Portland courthouse, with court employees as extras who couldn't stop laughing during Madonna's testimony scenes. Joe Mantegna, playing the prosecutor, later called it the worst film he'd ever made. The film opened in 3rd place and disappeared within weeks, but its failure is more memorable than most successes. Sometimes, being catastrophically bad is its own kind of achievement. Basic Instinct changed everything. Released in March 1992, Paul Verhoeven's thriller about a detective falling for a murder suspect who may be killing people for her novel was a box office success and launched 1,000 imitations. The interrogation scene alone became more famous than entire films, but you probably already knew that. Sharon Stone's leg-crossing moment wasn't in the script. Verhoeven told her the shot would just show her face, then use the full reveal, leading to a fierce battle that Stone ultimately lost, but turned into career leverage. She prepared for the role by visiting after-hours clubs in San Francisco and interviewing dominatrixes about power dynamics. Michael Douglas's character was originally written as neutral, but Douglas insisted on playing him as morally compromised from the start. The movie didn't just push boundaries, it demolished them, making every thriller that followed seem tame by comparison.